Do you love wrestling? Do you love all elite wrestling? Make sure you check out the good, the bad, and the Hungee here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. My name is Tyler Fornes, and my co-host Fred Moreland and I discuss all the happenings of all elite wrestling across the universe, including when they make trips overseas. We talk about Dark, we talk about Rampage, we talk about Dynamite, and everything in between, including Tony Khan and his both brilliant and confusing booking. Make sure you check us out. We drop our shows on Thursdays to make sure that we keep up with Dynamite and make sure we give you all the current happenings in all elite wrestling.
Hello there, everybody. It's me, Garrett Kidney, the co-host of You've Got to Be Kidding Me on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
And I am Liam Jones, my full name, and I'm also a part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network as a co-host for You've Got to Be Kidding Me.
We are a TNA history podcast that covers TNA 1 month at a time. We cover all the drama, all the matches, all the Vince Russo nonsense you could ever want in your life.
Have you heard of TNA? I bet you have, but would it be funnier if two people made jokes over it the whole time? Probably.
So if that sounds like fun to you, check it out on this very Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network, and Liam will do bits and whatnot.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome to another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Hungee here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. I'm your host, Tyler Fornes, and with me, as always, is Fred Moreland. And the Hungee cat is still cancer-free, so we are celebrating here on a Thursday morning. Fred, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Just happy to be here. And speaking of happy to be here, are you happy to be behind the draft or out of the draft or however you want to, whichever preposition I should put there?
It's always bittersweet because the draft is so much fun, but man, is it a lot of work, and you don't get a lot of sleep that weekend. It's kind of one of those deals. It's like going to Vegas. You love being there, but man, are you glad you got to go home? So it was fun. The site did well. Our shows did well. Vikings got some interesting players. It's hard to complain.
Yeah. How do you think? Do you have any favorite little stories coming out of it? Like just even things that maybe you haven't got a big chance to talk about?
Two stories really jump out to me. So in the 2000s, the Steelers had a linebacker pass rusher named Joey Porter. He was awesome. Gritty player. He was gonna punch you in the mouth. Well, his son didn't go in round one. So and his son was in the green room. They invite anywhere between 15 to 20 players to the green room at the draft, expecting them to go in round one. Every so often, a couple don't. This year, 4 guys didn't. And
I think that was the same as the year before because I was looking into this after Levis didn't get taken in the first.
Yeah. So Joey Porter Jr. Didn't get picked, even though I had him as my second-ranked cornerback in the draft. But this cornerback class was really deep, so it kind of made some sense too. Well, Joey Porter's like, hey, just put that chip on your shoulder and use this as extra motivation. You should have gone in round 1, but you didn't. You can't control these things. And where does he go? First pick of round 2 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So now Joey Porter gets to play for the team he was around his whole life. And that was kind of cool. The other one was Kansas State running back Deuce Vaughn. He's 5'5", Fred.
Nice.
5'5".
Kansas State with the short athletes this year of note. Mm-hmm. With him and their point guard from the March Madness.
Yeah. So Vaughn, incredibly talented, but he's very, very short. And when you kind of piece it together, it's like, okay, he's probably going to fall, but he's going to get drafted. Well, he got drafted by the Cowboys. And the Cowboys let his dad make the call because his dad's a scout for the Cowboys.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's who that story was with. Cool.
Yeah. And they didn't pick him because it was his dad's son. They picked him because he was a good football player, and they let his dad make the call. And he just hey, my phone's not working, so I just had a question for you. And then he just starts choking up. He's like, do you want to come to work with me on Monday?
Oh, my God.
And then Mike, the best part was at the end. You have all the heartfelt stuff. It's like
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy's talking to him on the phone. Is be like, hey, can you make sure you drive so your dad's not late to work on Monday? Like, just, you got to go seek those videos out. They're tremendous, and it's like the Cowboys posted a video of his dad talking to Deuce earlier in the day. Just be like, hey, keep your head up. You can't control this. You can ball wherever you go. You're going to be fine. Just keep your head up. It's going to be all right. And lo and behold, he's going to Dallas, and Dallas doesn't need a running back. So
awesome.
He's in a good spot.
Good stuff. Do you want to take a couple questions that I have made up for you on the draft? All right, cool. First of all, I'm always interested in Mr. Relevant, especially since they've become very relevant, in the past couple of years with Brock Purdy. Any thoughts on Dejuan Johnson from Toledo, the defensive end that was taken last this year?
I don't know anything about him, I'll be honest.
Cool.
I have no
Great
thoughts.
question by me.
Hey, hold on. It is a good question. I just don't have that kind of time. Like, I do a lot of NFL draft stuff, and it's my passion, but it's not all of what my job entails. I don't have time to get to a lot of the guys. Some of the guys picked in the 7th round I watch, but not everybody. Like,
right.
You just don't have.
Stetson Bennett, 4th rounder. After talk that he may not be drafted at all by some GMs, possibly as a infosec black ops.
What a waste of a 4th round pick by the Rams. Like they literally took fuck them picks to a new level. If you don't know, there was a meme created online when Les Snead kept trading away 1st round picks, just a picture of him that says fuck them picks. The last 1st round pick he made was Jared Goff in 2016. That is a lot of 1st round picks. That's 7 of them he's traded away for veterans. And next year they're scheduled to have their 1st round pick, so we'll see. But at the Super Bowl, his daughter made him a shirt with the meme on it. Nice. It's his face that says fuck them picks. Nice. And he wore it to the parade, and I'm like, oh, this is tremendous. But yeah, the Rams wasted a pick. There's really nothing else you can say. They straight up wasted that pick. Stetson Bennett, he's smaller than Bryce Young. He's worse than Bryce Young. I don't care if he won 2 natties. Ken Dorsey won a natty, and he lasted like 5 minutes in the NFL. Just because you were successful by record in college does not mean anything moving forward. Nothing.
I can't wait until he somehow starts a playoff game, throws exactly one good pass in his life, and wins that playoff game, and then that's his entire legacy. Going straight for the Tebow comparison. How do you think the Vikings did? I know that's the team that you report on closely and everything. You think they had a good draft, bad draft, middling draft?
Middle to good. Jordan Addison is not a sexy pick, but it's a very smart and savvy pick. He kind of gives me vibes of like Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams as far as how he likes to win. He didn't test super athletic, and but he is quick. He's really explosive in and out of breaks, and he just understands how to play receiver. And sometimes you take that guy over just a great athlete, and I think he's going to be a great complement to what Jefferson provides. Some of the picks later on, I was like, didn't really move me. But they also picked my favorite player in the class, BYU quarterback Jaren Hall. I have loved this guy for multiple years, and they picked him, and I freaked out. I got probably like 5-10 calls and texts like, dude, they picked your guy. Like, I was thrilled. I actually just released a piece on Vikings Wire on Wednesday where I did a massive film breakdown on what Jaren Hall can be. It's probably the best thing I've ever written. But yeah, Jaren Hall's my dude. And the fact, the Vikings usually don't take guys I really love because it's just the draft. It's not how it works. But man, was I excited when they took Hall.
Awesome. One more question for you. It's actually about a Minnesota Viking, UDFA, or undrafted free agent for those that aren't that into it. So I was listening to Split Zone Duo, and they were talking about Andre Carter II, who was a outside linebacker, edge rusher for Army. and apparently had a great 2020 or 2021 season, and then did not look as good last year, and had an awful combine series of workouts, and went from being thought of as a potential first round draft pick if he had gone out last year to not being drafted at all. Do you think the Vikings have the potential to have made a steal here, or do you think that it's kind of just this is more what this guy is?
There's potential for a really big steal. So here's the weird thing with Army. Not only are you training to play football, you're also training to be a cadet.
Yes.
And you talk to anybody who's ever been involved with the military, they will tell you that those workouts are incredibly different, and they don't complement each other. They're very, like, I'm trying to think of the right word. Like, they basically, yeah, they cancel each other out. So as a cadet, you need endurance. You need to be able to run long distances. You need to be able to have that kind of endurance. Well, in football, as an edge rusher, you need power, you need muscle, you need bulk. Well, you kind of can't do both. That's not how that works. So he needs time in an NFL weight room, but he's got incredible explosion, really good quickness, and he's got length for days. So if you can get him in an NFL weight program and get him into a good spot, I think you could have something. But you have to be able to get there, and that's going to be the trick. Are they going to be able to get there? Well, if he makes the practice squad, they're only wasting $100,000. And in NFL terms, it's like you and me giving $20 to the homeless guy in the street. Like, it's a drop in the bucket. It doesn't really matter as far as our own finances. Like, they chose to make the investment. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, the last first rounder from one of the service academies was in 1947. It's just very interesting because, I mean, it's such an uphill battle for Air Force, Navy, and Army to compete in college football in the first place on the D1 level.
Well, and things were different back then. You had to serve your military service before you went to the league. Now, these guys are grandfathered in, so they're kind of the last bunch. Now, if you want to go to the league, you're going to have to wait. You have to do your military service first. And that's there was kind of a big deal because they're like, well, Andre Carter just went in the draft last year, and you're kind of screwing him over out of potential millions of dollars.
Well, and from the college perspective, coaches are essentially it took an act of Congress for him to be eligible in this draft, if I recall correctly. And as you can imagine, if you're coaching a service academy, the idea that you might have a first round draft pick level talent who cannot be drafted or basically cannot play in the NFL during that brief window when you're that high level, because of this rule limiting athletic opportunities for service academy athletes as pros. You can imagine what that would do to recruiting for those coaches, just how big of a hit that would be.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And it's not like recruiting's flush for the service academies anyway. So
yeah, because it's such a with the academic standards and also some physical limitations too. I know, with Navy, they can only recruit athletes under a certain height because of submarines, I believe, if I'm not mistaken on that. So, and then add on top of that it's not like Bama, or Georgia or any other of the big blue chip ones. So,
fun fact: Army's not going to be running the traditional triple option anymore.
I know
they're operating out of the shotgun next year.
Yeah, it's not right. Just with is it Georgia Southern that's always done the triple? And
Georgia Southern is now doing the spread.
Yeah, they moved away from that, and it feels like that's actually going to take this time because there's been a couple coaches in the past that try to move away from it, and we're basically instantly assassinated out of the job. People are like, no, this is our identity, get out of here. So. Anyways, I'm glad you survived. Any other little tidbits you want to share from the experience, or just thoughts, or anything in general?
No, just go read VikingsWire.usatoday.com. I have a ton of draft stuff up on there. And if you have teams that have first round picks, I probably have a scouting report on them, and I can send them to you so you can get a really good synopsis of what they are.
I actually was looking for news on Will Levis after the first round, and I did a little Google Reno forum, and I stumbled upon a article by one Tyler Fornes organically in the results while looking into that, and it was like, hey, that's my guy.
Which article was that?
I think it was actually something to do with the like Malik Willis and the other QB not being taken in the first round last year, but I forget. It's been a whole week now. I don't remember things. So,
oh, that's completely fair. I think I wrote one for zone coverage. I wrote about trading up for Will Levis like a month ago.
Yeah, that might have been it. I think it was an older article. Speaking of bad takes, we'll get to that part in a second, but good takes. All in London is taking some money in. They sold 43,000 tickets for a total of $5.7 million, 4.5 million pounds, I think. And that is easily the all-time attendance record for AEW. Their previous high was 20,177 for the first Grand Slam in 2021. And the bad take part of this is Mike Coppinger of Espen getting on Twitter and saying that, he heard that they had only set up the building for 40,000 seats when it was being reported that they were at 35K. And Tony Khan logged on, baby.
God, I love Tony Khan.
Tweeting at him first, all caps, lies! What a load of crap. Tell your agent Nick Khan to shove it up his ass. And then coming back, since you carry the credentials of a credible reporter and represent the worldwide leader, I'm just curious, who is your source for this, and how can a reporter representing ESPN tweet something about a legit news story that's so blatantly wrong and easily verified as a falsehood? Amazing. Extremely online head booker. What a guy. I can't say he's wrong. He's not wrong here.
Look, Tony Khan being so online is a detriment. As in, like this is where it's great because he's just like, no, you're a chode. Shut up. You're wrong, and you're not even trying to be right. You're just trying to be a jackass. And he calls him out. And what does Coppinger do? I didn't think he replied at all because
he didn't reply, and he hasn't said anything else about it. He hasn't even done a correction. He's just tweeting about boxing bullshit that I don't care about. So
yeah, he's just a bootlicker for Nick Khan.
Speaking of bootlicking, apparently Deontay Wilder was arrested for concealed weapon in LA, and as part of his air quotes reporting on that, he retweeted a tweet from Deontay Wilder that said, quote, I'd rather be safe than sorry, the end, pray hands emoji, end quote.
Jeez.
Kind of think this guy may not be good at the reporting.
Yeah, think? That's pretty bad, Fred. That's really bad. But let's talk about this 43,000 tickets sold for All In already. This show is being recorded on May 4th. Tomorrow is May 5th, and that is when the full sale goes live because they already did at least 2 pre-sales. I think one more might be happening today. Look, at 43,000 tickets already, considering we had over 50,000 people sign up for the pre-sale. They could get to 90. It might be a little ambitious to think that, but there is a non-zero chance at this point they get to 90,000 people. And that would be so massive.
Very massive, someone would say. That might even have a big fight feel.
Oh, just maybe. Just maybe. And here's the thing. Not a card announced. And
not a single match.
If they announce Will Ospreay, if they announce Kazuchika Okada, if they announce a huge match with the Elite, you don't know what you're getting from this card. Yeah. If Punk gets announced, that could move 4,000 to 5,000 tickets. Will it? I don't know. But if it does,
would you be surprised?
No.
Would you be surprised if it moved 10 at this point? I just Like, this is just so high end that, like, I would believe anything at this point. Like, if CM Punk was announced and it just jumped up 10,000 tickets immediately, like, I that wouldn't be the craziest thing, I guess, because we're dealing with these high end numbers, and it feels like when you're in the ticket or pay per view business, when you get up to the high end, like, there's the cap is really loose. Like, it can jump up real fast, I'm taking that from like UFC because it felt like. When I was actually paying some level of attention to it back in the late teens, you would project, like, Meltzer and Alvarez would try to project the pay-per-view rates, and for like the run-of-the-mill pay-per-views, they be pretty close. But then when it got to the higher end stuff, like, they'd always underestimate what those buys would be, and I feel like ticket sales are kind of similar to that. And I think you could put any number right now, and it's like within the realm of possibility in terms of ticket sales for the show.
Yeah, this is huge. If they sell this building out, like the Bucks changed their bio on Twitter, like,
yes, they did.
Did we? What did it say? Did we do it again?
We did it again, I think.
Oh, like, come on, like this is just phenomenal stuff, Fred, and we could be getting a hell of a card, like, because this isn't like WrestleMania where you sell at the building, you don't have to deliver like this phenomenal card. This is the first non-major WWE show in England for like first time in like decades. Like, you have to deliver something big here. Yeah. And how that'll happen with all out literally the next week, I don't know. Like, I wonder if they do some kind of little tournament here, like semifinals here and then finals at All Out to kind of try and ease the burden a little bit for the All Out card, because you have to figure out how to do like a 1 week build on All Out. But they're going to deliver a huge card, and I wouldn't be shocked if it has a heavy New Japan influence.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what they do end up doing. He's, it's rarefied air is what they're in right now. And I think even if they don't sell another ticket, which obviously is not going to be the case, they're going to it's 100% a success. There's no like qualification of it. It's just, this has been a grand slam for them. No pun intended.
Yeah, but it was punny. Good job. All right, let's move on to other news. Once we get more ticket information, we will talk about this, and we will bury all the chodes that are just trying to spin this as a negative for AEW. It is an overwhelming positive. 43,000 tickets before tickets to go on sale to the general public. That's that's incredible.
There's no, I think we've been shitting on the TV quite a bit over the past few weeks. But like, this is 100% a positive. And honestly, anyone that you see trying to spin it otherwise, like, you should just discount their opinion on stuff. Like, it's that out of the range of what's actually happening that you should reevaluate if you should actually listen to them.
If somebody tries to tell you this is a bad number for AEW, they have an agenda. And exactly.
Either an agenda or they just are completely out of touch.
Yeah. Let's go to other news, though, Fred. Andrew Zarian from Wrestling Observer, he hosts the Matt Man podcast, I believe, reported that Dark and Dark Elevation are done for now. The WBD deal for Collision requires AEW Wrestling to air exclusively on Warner Brothers Discovery programming, and that includes TBS and TNT. ROH is currently excluded from that. Now, will that change? We don't know. We don't have any inclination that it will, but Dark and Dark Elevation are done. Dark was a really cool concept. Just be like, oh, we're just going to air the Dark matches on YouTube. And Dark Elevation was supposed to be like a step up from that to give you actual quality matches. They had guys like Moxley and Omega on early on, but then the pandemic hit. Everything shifted with how those programs were utilized. And then Rampage came about, and that kind of became what Dark Elevation was supposed to be. We'll see what happens with Collision, but, I mean, Dark and Dark Elevation are done.
Yep. It's I think the greatest thing we're losing is the Excalibur and Taz comedy hour. They could just be super relaxed and just do whatever shtick they wanted to. And
Or,
honestly,
what was it? Taz and Ricky Starks talking about the blood handprint on Japanese deathmatch legend Luther's ass.
yeah.
Then trying to figure out, oh, is that his handprint? Ricky's like, well, if it was his handprint, it would be facing downward. Taz's like, no, he's double jointed. Just all-time stuff.
Honestly, Matthew from Botchamania, like he has to do like a special tribute to this. Like it gave him so much material. And honestly, I'm kind of sad to see it go, just because those two are a blast together when they're just goofing off. Mm-hmm. Like Dark really became a podcast with wrestling in the background, and usually that was appropriate for what they were doing on Dark.
Yeah. All right, moving forward, Rampage. We don't really talk about Rampage much because it kind of stinks, and the rating last week was a disaster, but it's not all their fault. They moved the show back an hour after Dynamite announced that it was going to be at 5:30 Eastern, but they started it at 6:30 Eastern. 298,000 viewers and a 0.09. You can kind of throw that rating out for a number of reasons, but if this show was good, people would still find it.
Yeah, but I do think that it's a big caveat this week for the rating.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That this is one of those that isn't worth analyzing because, I mean, first of all, it's out of its time slot, so in general, those should really be, evaluated with a big grain of salt. But also the fact that they essentially false advertised the start time for the show on Dynamite. I think you can't understate just how big of a deal that is for the rating. But also I watched that Rampage this morning, and let me tell you, it stunk. It was not a particularly fun show. It had 3 squashes. And I know that it's out of your time slot and everything, and you're planning for a 5:30 start time, but you still have kind of a boost from the hockey. I think it was the hockey playoffs coming after it, and you just got to do something better than this card. Did you even see what the card was, Tyler?
No.
I'm going to read this card off to you and give you brief thoughts on Rampage, because that's all it deserves, are brief thoughts. So your opener was Jay White and Juice Robinson against Ricky Starks and Sean Spears. Perfectly acceptable match, 3.5 stars. Very, if you're going to watch one thing off this show, that's what you should watch. Secondly, we had Dustin Rhodes and Keith Lee against a job team of Brady Pierce and Charlie James. All the stars. And then we had Anna J. A.S. against Ashley Dubois. I'm going to mispronounce that pretty badly. But she's basically a jobber. And the only reason this went over 5 minutes and has a cage match rating is because it went through the commercial break. And then immediately after that, they had the Acclaimed Billy Gunn come out and squash 3 geeks. And then the main event was Cash Wheeler against Jay Lethal with Mark Briscoe at ringside.
What an awful card.
3 squashes back to back to back, man. It was kind of brutal, I'll be honest. And the promos in between, there was nothing really spectacular on it. Maybe the strongest promo was Tay Conti telling Sammy that he's kind of being an idiot, thinking that MJF is his friend. There was a kind of a really bad one with Matt Hardy, having to sell Isaiah Cassidy getting killed by the Firm while watching a TV. This was not a Rampage at all. This was barely a page. Got him.
Glad I didn't watch it. Let's move on. Leva Bates' contract has expired and she's leaving the company. She hadn't wrestled since the pandemic. And kind of for good reason. She was really, really bad. But they kept her around. I'm guessing having her in a lot of backstage roles, and now she is done with the company.
Now she had been wrestling semi-regularly on Dark and Dark Elevation. She did 11 matches since the start of 2022. But the last
okay.
The last time she was on TV proper was March 2020. So I think right either right before the pandemic started. So she wasn't even making TV during the pandemic days, and she was in Jacksonville, at least at the tail end of 2020. Look, she, Leva Bates is by all counts a lovely person and very nice and well loved by just about everyone. And I hope she is able to find something that makes her very happy after this. There's some possibility that she is going to try to move into acting. We'll see how that goes. I think that, this is probably the right time for her to leave wrestling. I am a little surprised that she's not sticking around as office staff, because that's, I think, typically how Tony Khan operates. So maybe that's her call, or maybe he made the call to just completely move on. But yeah, she was a day one act, and
it didn't work. It happens.
I can't believe that anyone ever really thought that librarian's gimmick was going to work on any major level at all. Like, that's not a major league act. That's like the Flying Elvises for TNA's first show. kind of stuff.
No Flying Elvises slander. Those guys ruled.
Oh, the workers were great. They were much better than Leva Bates. But like the gimmick itself just like was dead in the water from day one.
Yeah, is what it is. This is some really cool news. Will Washington, formerly of Grapsody and Fightful, was brought in as Director of Wrestling Administration. He will be assisting with, this is the best part, continuity and long-term booking. And if there's anybody among the wrestling media who understands this, Will is going to be up there in the first few names that you mentioned. And based on how he acts on social media and kind of his appearances in audio-video format, he comes across as just one of the nicest and well thought out individuals in the space. And if you're going to make a hire like this to try and do exactly kind of what they want here, it's going to be tough to find a better candidate than Will Washington.
Yeah, it's by all accounts, he seems to be perfect for this. Also, being Swerve Strickland's cousin probably does not hurt.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I've seen that mentioned several times now. So, it's always good to have a foot in the door.
So do we have to bury this for being a nepotism hire now?
It's good nepotism if you're good at your job, I guess. We'll see how it goes. And, I don't know Will, but, he's got apparently a lot of cred with people, and it's very cool to see. So good for him. Congrats to him. He's got some killer all elite photos already, so good on him.
Yeah, I don't know him either, but everything I've seen of him, he just strikes me as a very intelligent, kind of individual, and those are the kind of people you want to bring into a company.
So you know what the bad thing is now? Every shitty AEW podcaster is or any wrestling podcaster is going to think that maybe they could be hired by Tony Khan.
Oh, that's a good point. Hey, I could be hired by Tony Khan.
So, hey, TK, listen, buddy. It's just me and you listening. All right, cool. I am available. You want to talk? You can get in touch. We cool.
Tony, I do scout NFL players on the side. I can help your scouting department as well as help with the creative on a weekly basis. Just saying. I got credentials. I work for USA Today.
Tony, we actually think the last month of television has been wonderful.
Fuck that. No, Tony, the last month of television has been spotty at best. You're better than this.
That's true. Yeah. Give me money so I can tell you that you suck. We're going to do AEW financial domination.
Hey, we're going to be
OnlyFans for Tony Khan.
We're going to be Bob and Bob consultants from Office Space.
So what do you actually do around here?
Nothing. I'd say on an average workday, I do about 15 minutes of work. That Peter Gibbons, he's a real go-getter. He's got upper management written all over him.
But yeah, I mean, I do think that some people will probably take the absolute wrong lesson here.
Yeah.
And I look forward to being one of them.
Tremendous. All right. Two more pieces of news, and they both kind of involve Chris Jericho. One of them is he's starring in a movie called Country Hearts. is going to premiere on UPTV. He's going to play Bones Jameson, a rock star ranch owner who is the father and husband to a family of country music artists, all while trying to start a new horse breeding business. That feels like actually Chris Jericho.
This 100% looks like it's going to have like sub Hallmark movie channel production values, and I'm sure this is going to be a disaster, and we may have to watch it for the podcast.
This may be how we start our Patreon that every other wrestling podcast has.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, this will be fascinating. But part 2, we have to talk about the Britt Baker t-shirt that Chris Jericho wore on television last night. And so I think we need to come at this from a lot of different angles. I'm going to start here.
Sure.
The people are going to take this as a domestic violence thing, and I completely get it. A man is wearing a shirt of a woman with a black eye, and it's being sold by AEW. But I don't believe that's the case, and I completely understand and respect anybody who has that opinion. Britt Baker has sold t-shirts like this before. And she has one, if you remember the death match from St. Patrick's Day Slam, where she's like crawling up the ropes and she's just covered in blood. Her teeth are coated in it. And she's just smiling like that evil smile that you'd see Mick Foley use. She sold the hell out of that t-shirt. And now she gets beaten up by the Jericho Appreciation Society and
mainly
Outcast. Jamie Hayter, the Outcast. But they were kind of in cahoots. Anna Jay was there too, if I remember correctly. So like it was kind of a team effort. And of course, Jericho feuding with Adam Cole wears the t-shirt. So the intention here is just to piss off Adam Cole, not portray domestic violence. But at the end of the day, man wearing a t-shirt with a woman with a black eye still portrays domestic violence.
It's not a great look.
No. But
I think you could argue. I'm kind of on the fence about Jericho wearing it because I understand within the context of the show that he's specifically trying to agitate Adam Cole's character, and like that part I get. Mm-hmm. The part that is like 100% not great to me is selling it to the general public. Because like imagine just like someone being like, yes, I will purchase the black eye t-shirt, and then just wearing it like to the grocery store, and then you just look like a fucking maniac.
This is a t-shirt you wear to a wrestling show and people don't necessarily bat an eye. But this is a t-shirt you wear in public, and this is why people are embarrassed to be wrestling fans. Like, yeah. Like you can wear a Bullet Club t-shirt and that kind of passes the public test. Like, okay, that could be like a band or something like.
Yeah, I own a couple Orange Cassidy shirts that I wear that just look like band logos and are pretty good as far as t-shirt designs, in my opinion. This is This is rough, I think, to be selling it. But, I mean, I also don't think it's an actual endorsement of domestic violence or anything. I think that's pretty far-fetched.
Now, hold on. It's far-fetched for us because we're invested in this company.
Right. Now, but if someone just sees that in person with no context, like whoever's wearing that is going to look like a goddamn maniac.
And in that's the context you have to kind of think about.
Right,
I think exactly. Britt wearing this t-shirt is fucking cool as hell.
Yeah.
Like, Britt's like, oh, you beat me up? Hey, here's my picture, baby. Take a look. You beat me up. I'm still here. Like, I think that kind of self-confidence and awareness is really cool, and a positive perception kind of like how to present yourself. Like, oh, I'm tougher than you big bad bully. Like they're trying to appeal to kids while appealing to us, like longtime wrestling fans. So, like, that's a good positive message. Jericho wearing it, I love it for his character. I don't love it overall. Like it, and I think those two things can be separate.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fair.
Like it just kind of is what it is. There really isn't anything you can do. Like it happened. Like maybe don't do it again.
Yeah, they still have it up for sale. I would not, but it's still, I think, I don't know. Do they still have the top listings on the site, the shop AEW.com? What's been the best for the week?
It's a good question.
It's the number 2 selling item right now. There it is. I just had to scroll down more. There's going to be a lot of people that look like creeps. I think the second they step out of the arena.
Yep. But, I mean, that's their choice. Let's get to this Dynamite show, Fred. What did you think on an overall level of this show?
It was like slightly better maybe than what last week was. There's some stuff on here that I thought was a definite improvement, and then there's some stuff that I thought was particularly weak. So we got a mixed bag this week for sure.
I'll say this. I still don't think it's back.
The vibe was better on this one, I thought.
Yes, the vibe was better, and it started off early. You had Orange Cassidy coming out with Bandito, and then you hear the end of Heartache by Killswitch Engage, and Roderick Strong comes out, and this dude was cheesy. He had just this grin on his face. You could tell he was like, I'm a professional wrestler again, and was just so happy. Like, you could just feel it. He was just so happy to be here. And the crowd went ballistic for him. And the Messiah, the Backbreaker, is back. And it's great. They come out. Jericho Appreciation Society comes out. And then as their music comes out, Jumbotron stays the same, but it's Judas. And out comes Chris Jericho with that famed Britt Baker t-shirt. And that's going to play into kind of the post-match. So Jericho, best line on commentary. I don't like this Roderick Strong one bit. Yeah. Just perfect. They get the win. Roddy hits a move on, I think, who was it? Cool Hand Ange. And then Adam Cole with the last shot. Bingo. And then right after the match, Adam Cole sprints up the ramp and attacks Jericho at commentary. And that's where that t-shirt comes into play, because I think that was what really set him off, but he knew he had to take care of business first. This was to set up the angle and keep this feud really, really hot, but the match itself was good. I gave it 3.5.
Yeah, I went 3.5 on it too. It was a nice little match, fun opener, for some pretty good work in it. And I think, there's some people that are down on it because of Adam Cole maybe over emoting at points, but I do like the storyline so far. I think has been pretty good, and I like the visual of Cole sprinting up the ramp to tackle Jericho. I thought that was good.
Yeah, it was really good. This next part. Renee Paquette interviews Jack Perry and Darby Allin backstage. This was fine. It was to kind of set up the angle before the match. Basically, they keep talking about how they're going to walk into Double or Nothing as number 1 contenders. And you kind of got the sense that Darby has wanted to do it on his own. But I don't know. This is just an interview segment to continue setting up and building the match.
When I saw it was these two backstage doing a promo segment together with just Renee there, I was like, oh no, this could be a real disaster. And I will say that I thought it was fine by the end. And, credit to them for doing granted this is a low bar, but they did a solid interview segment. And that's something, I guess.
Yeah. Right after, Adam Cole was escorted out of the arena by security while Jericho screamed at him. And Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, walked up to Jericho and just slapped him. Taz, just a great Taz line. Tough night for Jericho.
Good stuff.
I love Taz. He's just different. Next up, we have the Blackpool Combat Club backstage. Bryan Danielson. We want AEW to be the best.
Okay, hold on. I got to cut you off here. Much like AEW cut off the audio on the first 10 seconds of this promo. Look, you've been on TV. Okay, Tony. This is me auditioning for the job. Tony, as your second Will Washington-esque hire. I just want to tell you, man, fix the goddamn audio on your show. I realized that my audio setup is shit over here. I got my shitty laptop fan like working overtime to keep everything going all right. You never have the audio balanced right. The start of the show had Excalibur like right in the crowd noise. You could barely hear him over it. It wasn't like some kind of Austin, Attitude Era pop coming out. And then you managed to drop the audio that started this promo segment. My God, just get your shit together on the audio on your show, please. If someone at AEW is cursed by having to listen to the show as part of their job so that you get notes together to give them to Tony Khan, please write in all caps for me, Fred Moreland, just asking nicely. Please write in all caps, fix the fucking audio. Thank you. Okay, sorry.
All right. Well, now that you are,
I feel better.
This off your chest, I'm very glad you feel better.
Therapeutic.
Right after Danielson talks, Mox, the Elite should be thanking us for sharpening them. You think we're bullies? There was a time when the Elite was cutting edge. I don't know. Next week, a steel cage match. Mox and Omega. That just hits different. Every day, the BCC gets better and more dangerous. I've got a whole new version of John Moxley that I just can't wait to show you, Kenny Omega. I promise this. We're going to leave one hell of a mark. And every time they've said a line like that, they have delivered. Lately, it's kind of been screwdrivers to the head, but that was a noteworthy finish for me.
Yeah, damn good promo. This is BCC Elite is the best thing going in the company right now by a good margin, and this was another great segment from them.
Bingo. Next, we had Outcast Saraya with Ruby Soho and Tony Storm versus Willow Nightingale. Match was fine.
Yep.
I didn't think it was overly offensive, and considering how Saraya started with the company, you could use more of this.
This was fine. I went 2.5 stars on it. And I don't mean that as an insult. I just thought it was slightly above average.
Yeah, I guess for me, average is 3 stars.
And for me, it's 2. It's just.
I use the scale differently, and that's okay.
But
it was after the match that was important. They were attacking Willow, and Hikaru Shida runs to the ring.
This was a good segment.
This is a phenomenal segment because she acts like she's going to turn heel. But then all of a sudden, Jamie Hayter and Dr. Britt Baker sneak up, and she doesn't turn heel, and she spray paints the Outcasts. So it looks like they finally have their third piece to combat the Outcasts. And this was very well done.
I thought, this was a really good segment.
The whole crowd thought Shida was turned, and they got him. And that's great.
Yeah, it was a really good swerve. I will say one of the best parts of this was the Outcast selling of Shida joining them and the shit-eating grins they had when they were holding up Willow to be beat up further by Shida. They just looked so happy with themselves. It was Jeff Jarrett level, mid-card healing. And I think they really did a good job with that. So kudos to them.
Yes, absolutely. Trios champs, House of Black were backstage. This was really good. I really liked this video package. They said there was an open house and it would be under their rules. Basically, come one, come all, setting up the Tres de Mayo Battle Royal. So a Trios Battle Royal. And I believe the winners get a shot at the Trios champions. And I think that's at Double or Nothing. I don't know if they said that explicitly, but
it probably will be.
Yeah.
And they have the spooky rules.
Whatever the hell that is.
20 count on the floor, no rope escapes, and the challengers decide if it's DQ or no DQ.
Ooh.
So I think that actually works rather well. And hopefully we can finally get the House of Black wrestling, on a regular basis on TV too. So cool.
Fascinating. Let's talk about this Trios Battle Royal. The Lucha Brothers, Penta El Cero Miedo, Rey Phoenix, and El Hijo del Vikingo versus Kip Sabian, Butcher and the Blade versus the Dark Orders, Alex Reynolds, Evil Uno, and John Silver versus the Varsity Athletes, Aria Davari, Josh Woods, and Tony Nese versus the Acclaimed, Max Caster, Anthony Bowens, and Daddy Ass Billy Gunn versus QT Marshall, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Aaron Solo. So this was fun. This is a great Battle Royal company, and It was weird that they had Kip Sabian, the Butcher, and the Blade all in the match in the final 5, with the only other 2 being Daddy Ass and Anthony Bowens, but it worked. Like, this worked.
I wasn't into this. I think they used to be a really good Battle Royal company, but their last couple have not been particularly great, and I thought this one was just very, very bland. It didn't have the usual like series of cool spots going, and it also didn't have the usual stuff, the multiple stories being told through the Battle Royal, which the first couple of years of the company, they did a really good job of. So I think this failed at both.
I think you're right when the fact that it's not as good as the other ones, but it was still fine. Like, this was not bad.
Yeah, I went like 1 3/4 on it because it was a little, I don't know, it kind of bored me, and I also think there was some ugly botches involving QT Marshall. The Alex Reynolds elimination was a disaster because he went flying before QT even hit him, and then QT missed his spot to grab Ray Phoenix's foot on Phoenix's elimination. So,
yeah. After this, Renee Paquette backstage with Sammy Guevara. Guevara calls out MJF for leaving him. And unlike Kenny Omega, Sammy Guevara watches back the tapes. Like, that car was empty. You left me out to dry. And MJF saying he had a bad back and he'd have the card himself so he could spread out. Of course, Sammy bought it. Apologized. She'd have never doubted MJF. And MJF hints that he's got mashup music for tonight.
yes.
And they did debut that, and it actually worked out pretty well.
This segment doesn't really make all that much sense after Rampage. It's kind of like his wife told him, "Hey, he's not your friend," and like for a week he was like, "Maybe she's wrong." But other than that, this was Sammy Guevara and MJF are good as little shit-headed heels.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we hear from the Elite, Kenny Omega and Don Callis. This was good. Let's go through it. Omega, John Moxley, you're telling me you have a plan for next week? Don Callis, this line was tremendous. He's got a plan. Moxley, look at the scar on my forehead. You're a sick, twisted sociopath. It's all going to come to an end in Detroit when you meet the god of pro wrestling. I love Don Callis. But then Omega follows it up. John, you might make me bleed, but at the end of the day, everything comes to an end. You're not going to be left standing. What you and the BCC did to me, the Young Bucks, Takeshita, what you did to Don, you made it personal. It ends next week. Spoiler, it won't end next week, but this match is going to be freaking tremendous. I don't know if Omega's ever wrestled in a cage before. At least not in modern day Kenny Omega.
I can't think of one offhand other than, I'm not sure. I'll do a little investigation.
Maybe he did in Winnipeg. Maybe he was in one of those weird cage matches in AAA. But in a major league company, I don't think he's ever wrestled in a cage.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Except for, he was on the. No, he wasn't. Okay, so no, he was not in a cage match on this 2008 JAPW show. I don't know that he ever was. Yeah. So I don't think so.
Tremendous. All right, Kenny Omega in a cage match. Next up, TNT champion Wardlow with the enforcer Arn Anderson. He beats the crap out of a jobber named Logan. And he grabs the mic. I ain't done. I can do this all day. I haven't even broken a sweat. I know there's a guy backstage looking to cut the line, but doesn't have the guts to get in this ring. Christian, bring your monster out here, and we'll do this in Baltimore. I'm issuing an open challenge. Well, Christian comes out and basically says, no, Baltimore, it's pretty obvious you're ignorant and you're trash, so keep it down while I conduct some business. The title shot doesn't belong to Luchasaurus. It belongs to me. So it looks like Wardlow, Christian.
Yeah, and that should be fun. I thought this was a decent post match there, and I hopefully we'll get some more promos especially from Christian on this side of the feud, and get some good stuff going.
Yes, absolutely. Moving on. This was great. Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, Satnam Singh, and Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, yes.
Pay a visit to Sandy Fork and Papa Briscoe. Papa knows Jay Lethal, but he says, I don't trust those guys in the overalls, Satnam Singh and Sanjay Dutt.
Which one?
Your back. Lethal issued a challenge for him and Jared to face the AEW Tag Champs FTR in Vegas at Double or Nothing. So it looks like we're going to get Lethal and Jared versus FTR, which could end up being good. Hopefully it's better than that singles match Dax and Jared had. That was just really bad. But this was a fun segment. Going to Sandy Fork, Delaware.
One of the best segments they've had in a while, I think. This was one of the things that really made me optimistic about the direction of AEW. Papa Briscoe, Satnam Singh, and those overall it was good comedy with the right guys. Mark Briscoe is good for the spot. Jeff Jarrett is perfect. This is what Jeff Jarrett's whole career should have been. And it's a damn shame that he kept trying to force himself as like the ultimate world champion in TNA and the aughts. But we're here now.
Yeah. All right. Bullet Club's Rock Hard. Juice Robinson with Switchblade Jay White versus Absolute Ricky Starks. Switchblade comes out with Juice, but goes into the back. And this is a pretty good match. I think that there's a better match in them because it just felt like they were kind of just going through spots. I gave it 3.5.
Same.
Ricky gets the spear, and then Jay White ambushes Ricky after the match. And looks like the end goal here is Jay White versus Ricky Starks at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, and I think that'll be a fun match, and I'm looking forward to that. This was pretty good. The best thing that Juice Robinson's doing right now is just screaming Ricky multiple times during his matches. Like, that just cracks me up every time. It's good stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Then this is where things get weird. AEW World Champion MJF approaches Jack Perry behind closed doors. Now, the key here was Darby was talking to him beforehand, and Darby leaves. He ends up just going to get his skateboard and then comes back for Perry. While MJF was trying to talk to Perry about, joining him. You're twice the wrestler that Sammy is. Think of what I could do for your career. All you have to do is betray Darby. I'm offering you a spot next to the throne. And Perry's like, I don't want a spot next to the throne. I'm going to be the next world champion. And Darby doesn't necessarily believe that it was a bunch of nothing. To Perry, it's a bunch of nothing. But Darby's like, what's that about? Jack's like, no, don't worry about it. We've got this. Darby, no, I've got this. And that'll play into the finish of the Four Pillars tag match where Darby Allin gets the win over Sammy Guevara after hitting the coffin drop. But the key here was after they had a good match with some drama built in, Jungle Boy was running the ropes and Darby gets the tag and he goes for the pin. Well, Darby is up on the top rope about to hit the coffin drop and Jungle Boy's got to roll out of the way. And Darby kind of steals the win here out of Jungle Boy, grasps. And to me, this is a continuation of what I think you and I both believe is a potential Jungle Boy heel turn.
Yeah, I thought that was. I do think we're going to get that Perry heel turn. I've been talking about that for a couple weeks now, and of course I'm right. I'm just kidding. But I do think it's going to happen. Seriously, I say wrong stuff plenty of times. Don't worry. But I think that could work out very well for him. And I thought this was a pretty fun match. Like, it wasn't great by any stretch, but I think it was the best match on the show. And the best AEW match I watched all week. I went 3 3/4 on it. I enjoyed this quite a bit. MJF and Guevara, they have great heel chemistry. They're both great as heels, as this very over the top kind of heel. And I like Guevara finally turning on MJF. It not leading directly, kind of led directly into the finish, but not like as immediately as I thought it would, which was a little interesting because we had to work in the Darby and Perry don't trust each other either thing, which, like, my God, we could ease up on that if I were to redo this again. But all in all, good match. But man, I gotta say this this build for the main event is easily the weakest world championship program in the history of AEW as far as a major one.
Yeah, this is the only weaker one I can really think of offhand is Christian and Kenny Omega.
That was better, I think.
But no, I agree it was better. They also had the Impact World title to kind of do stuff with, and obviously Christian won the Impact World title on the first ever episode of Rampage. But yeah, this is I love the idea of doing it because you have to save your big stuff for the summer, and this is a chance to give your pillars an opportunity to kind of show you something. And I don't like what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was ever really a question that MJF was going to retain in this feud, but like as this feud has progressed, like I think it's just the likelihood that you're seeing any of the other guys hold the world championship in the immediate future is decreasing rapidly.
MJF should pin all three of these guys at once, just like Roman pinned Eddie and Daniel Bryan in the middle of the ring.
Stack them up. God, this is again. I still think. Like, you could argue that Perry turning heel would be the best thing for his career in a vacuum, and maybe it is. But I also feel like at this point, that like you almost have to turn him a heel to salvage him. I think they've done a noticeable amount of damage to him with this feud. I think Sammy Guevara is just going to be in the exact same spot he's been in since practically day one in this company, is just a sidekick. And I do think he has the potential to be more, but I don't think that this is particularly making me want to see him in main event feuds on his own. And I think Darby's been fine-ish on this. Like, there's been a couple promos for him that have not been great, but I don't know, man. I think he still has the vibe of being Darby Allin, and I think he's still over. I don't think it's actually hurt him any, but I think it has exposed a couple weaknesses that he's had.
No, 100%. It's a little disappointing. You think they'd be further along after 4 years, but they're not. And that is Dynamite. Next week, we do have the Moxley and Omega cage match.
I am so excited for that because it's been a long-ass time since we've had a truly great match at Dynamite. And I hope
why does Detroit get all the cage matches? They got Blood and Guts, the first one outside of Jacksonville. Now they're getting this Moxley Omega cage match. Is that just a Detroit thing where they like are just huge marks for this stuff, or is it just coincidence?
Well, that is kind of the territorial history for Detroit, and I would imagine that maybe a little bit of that is Tony Khan playing off of that, because this is Detroit was the territory with all the bloodbath matches back in the 60s and 70s. They didn't have actual good work rate matches, but they had the wild, bloody brawls throughout the arena. In cage matches and stuff like that. So,
learning new things about Detroit, I didn't know.
Also, it's just it's Detroit, baby. Maybe he's just a big bad boy Pistons fan, and maybe he's a. Do you think Tony Khan is secretly a huge fan? I'm making this reference solely for myself, but a huge fan of the old video game Bill Lambier's Combat Basketball.
Okay.
I hope not, because that game was awful. But
let's sidetrack for a second before we wrap up this show.
Yeah, sure.
I want to see Bill Lambier in an actual cage match.
Bill Lambier, at least recently, was head coach for a WNBA team, and actually was very successful doing that.
The Detroit team. Yeah.
And then he moved to the Aces.
I think, didn't he get let go from Detroit because he was too much of an asshole?
I think he's been let go several times by now. Yeah, he got let go by his most recent team, the Vegas one, in 2021.
And the Aces are like one of the best teams in the WNBA now too. So
yeah, but they replaced him with I want to say Becky Hammon, who's
Hammon rules.
Yeah,
Hammon should be coaching in the NBA right now.
She should be, but how?
No offense to the WNBA, but like the NBA is considered the top echelon of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it always will be.
She was handpicked by Greg Popovich. Like, how does nobody hire her?
It's, I think that a complicating factor is going to be the fact that she has this job and probably does not. Well, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, money talks and bullshit walks, but there's a possibility that she might, at least right now, not feel comfortable leaving the team mid-season or as the season is starting for an NBA job, at least until she gets a ring out of them. I guess she did last year, so never mind. Maybe she just wants another ring. Who knows?
Yeah. There's a chance she's just happy with the WNBA and doesn't want to go up and some people don't want to be the pioneer.
Yeah.
And I can understand that because it's a different level of scrutiny. You're going to be, everything you do is under a microscope. Like the Vikings general manager, Quasito Fomensa, is like the first one. He's black. That doesn't help matters any as far as scrutiny. But two, he's like the first analytics GM. He comes from Wall Street. He's not a football guy. Like he's going to be extra scrutinized. So, but I'd hire Becky in a heartbeat. She rocks.
Yeah, she is awesome. And I don't know. I think the Aces are going to be one of the best teams again this year. What's very funny with Lambier is going back and looking at the historical stats for his teams, which I've been doing as I prep for the upcoming WNBA season, is just how dramatically fewer 3-point shots his teams always took than the other teams in the league. Like, we're talking like 75% of them, if that. Guy just loved his bigs. Anyway, we're getting pretty far afield here.
Well, that's the show.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about EC3's letter to Tony Khan? I forgot to mention this. Put in the show notes at the start. I'll do it real quick.
How self-indulgent was it? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. The text hasn't been released, but apparently right after Brawl Out, EC3 wrote a letter to Tony Khan trying to give him tips on how to be a leader, but definitely was not looking for a job with him. He said this in some interview somewhere, but I saw that headline this morning, and it was a good chuckle.
EC3. He's really trying to control the narrative here.
He is, definitely. Okay, seriously, before we do go, how are you feeling about AEW right now? Are you up on them as of a couple weeks ago? Down? Same spot?
A little bit up. I mean, especially with the announcement of All In and understanding that this company is going to be more moving forward. Like, there's going to be a lot better storylines this summer. Like,
yeah.
I guess I'm up, but man, I'm just not looking forward to these shows like I used to be. Like,
yeah, I'm not watching Rampage until Tuesday or Wednesday these days. And honestly, if it wasn't for this podcast, I'm not sure I would have watched this last one. It's just kind of rough.
Yeah, it really is. I will say this. Give me back-to-back 2 really good Dynamites, I'll be back in. Like,
yeah.
It's a slog to just work through right now, and it's quite frankly disappointing. But things can change in a moment. So we'll see.
Hopefully they get back on track, man. I just, would like to see them back to where they were.
You and me both. Well, that is our show, Fred. You can follow us on Twitter at GoodBadHungee. You can email the show at hungeepod@gmail.com. We also have a channel in the Voices of Wrestling Discord. You can ask us questions on any of those mediums, and we will answer them live on the show. You can follow me on Twitter at TheRealForno. You can follow my written work at VikingsWire.com. You can also watch my football-centric YouTube show, Vikings First and Skol, on a YouTube channel, and that is below in the show notes. And you can also follow Fred on Twitter at Flagrant Wrestling, an R, not a W, because he's a Ted Turner mark. And you can also subscribe to Fred's Patreon, where he takes a more analytical look at the world of professional wrestling with numbers and stats. And that is also in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening. And we will see you next week with more info on the all-in ticket sales.
I'm just going to stomp over the outro. Look at me. I'm a pro. Hire me, Tony Khan. I'm the best. Jesus.
Hello there, everybody. It's me, Garrett Kidney, the co-host of You've Got to Be Kidding Me on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
And I am Liam Jones, my full name, and I'm also a part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network as a co-host for You've Got to Be Kidding Me.
We are a TNA history podcast that covers TNA 1 month at a time. We cover all the drama, all the matches, all the Vince Russo nonsense you could ever want in your life.
Have you heard of TNA? I bet you have, but would it be funnier if 2 people made jokes over it the whole time? Probably.
So if that sounds like fun to you, check it out on this very Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network, and Liam will do bits and whatnot.
Hey kids, do you like wrestling? Well, we like wrestling too. We are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Myself and Chris Novembrino kind of doing a lazy river of wrestling criticism, going through the news and whatever happened in stateside television wrestling. And also, you know what? Sometimes we just like to watch old stuff and talk about that too. Love for you to give us a listen. If you haven't already, we are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.